There is a space in my heart where I find the truth. I find me in you, a truth beyond what you may see now. But when we are one, we bring more good about. No matter who or what you call yourself or where you come from, yeah. There is a place in this world with open arms right now. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. I see with new eyes, allow and unfold, embrace and let go, trust the flow. There's a freedom in love when you follow your heart. Together we are stronger than we could ever be apart. No matter who or what you call yourself or where you come from, yeah. There is a place in this world with open arms right now. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. Breathe in and out, slowly feel all that's around you, all that you feel, all that you know. Let it go. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. Yeah, when we unite. Oh, we unite. Yeah, yeah, when we unite. Yeah, yeah. Welcome here. Love is welcome here. Peace is welcome here. You are welcome here.
Yes, yes, yes. We are back. We are here. We are tuning in and listening. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, and good day to you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in to yourself, tuning into that inner wisdom, that inner guidance. Because once you tune into the inner guidance, you're going to listen. You're going to hear. You're going to hear what you need to do. You're going to know what you need to do. And you give yourself permission to be transformed. Just want to make sure. Leslie, what's my sound like? Is it good? Okay, great. I love Leslie. Great. You give yourself permission to be transformed. I am Ade, your transformational beingness artist. Welcome to another episode of Ade Presents, Being You, the journey back to yourself. Kina, nice to see you. Thank you for being here. And Leslie, thank you for being here. I just want to take this moment to really honor Leslie. Leslie is my co-producer, and there are just some people where they're just great. They just show up. They're like, woke up like this. And Leslie's definitely been a gift, an asset to this podcast since she started from day one. And I thank you, Leslie, for all you're doing behind the scenes, for the conversations we have, and just everything, all that you are and how you're expressing in the world. Go to make sure I say that so I don't forget. This is season 3, episode 4. No, episode 5. Today's Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021. The topic today is understanding darkness and light. What do you know about darkness and light? Are you feeling the sense that, we're doing some dark times right now, and there's not enough light to get rid of the darkness that we're going through in the world? There's a lot going on in the world that, I can listen to and say, I see what you mean. I see what you mean by that. But then there's so much more to this topic, darkness and light. And Rev D is going to be joining us. She's going to join us maybe in about 20 minutes or so. In the meantime, it's you and I and Leslie and everything else. I want to invite you to join us on the Being You, the main Being You podcast page on Facebook, facebook.com/Being You podcast for a more interactive experience. And also, truth is, I'm going to say more about that too. The truth is, the Being You podcast page is something that we're growing and developing, and we want to grow it. So we're inviting you to like it, to share the show, to share the shows, and to just join us there, because whether you know this or not, this is part of my business, a podcast. So there are things that are being asked for. Some of you know that I'm writing a book. They ask for platform. How many people are following you? How many people like a page? Those are things that you could give in exchange. As I give, you receive, and you give, I receive, by saying, yes, I have this amount of listeners, I have this amount of followers. So it's really a giving and receiving. This is not a demand. This is an invitation. And I really just invite you to, one, like it, share the shows, and join us on there. Yes, I do have the choice of not streaming on my podcast page. And the truth is, more people, no, not podcast page, on the personal profile page on Facebook, but more people listen there. Why? I don't know, but we're trying to work it out. And in so many ways, you can support me in supporting you. If on the business page, there are things I can do that I can't do with on the profile page. So, I invite you to join us there. There's more I want to say, and I'll come back to that. I just want to remind you and invite you that the Being You podcast conversation, really, it's an invitation to have you look at how you see yourself. How do you see yourself? Do you see yourself the way other people have described you? Do you see yourself based on your fears, your inadequacies, your struggles? Or do you see yourself as part of something grand, something bigger, something stronger, being part of the divine? How do you see the world you're living in right now? Wherever you live in the world, how do you see it? Are you seeing as a world that's just, you're saying, yeah, this world is going to hell in a handbasket? This is not, when I say this, not just conversations just to say it because it sounds good, but we have a responsibility to create the world we want to see And we have a responsibility to be part of the world we want to see. So that's why I'm throwing these invitations out to you. How do you see yourself? How do you see the world? How do you see yourself in the world? And how do you see the world in you? You hear it. Some of you hear it regularly, but just sit with that. Meditate on that. This is about empowerment. It's about inspiration. As much as my ego gets stroked when I'm told, oh, that was deep. You know, what's deeper for me is knowing that this platform and the things that I'm sharing is touching people, and people are taking that and moving forward and doing what they need to do for their lives. That's the best gift you can ever give me, you know? Let me give you some quick announcements. It's quite 3 different announcements. Rev D is going to be joining us soon. Podcast. If you're podcasting or thinking of being a podcast, or, well, which one do I use? There's so many hosting accounts out there. Well, I partnered with Libsyn, LIBSYN.com, Libsyn.com. You can check them out. I'm going to give you a short version of the announcement. Is if you sign up with them, use the promo code I'm about to give you, you will get some months free. Now, if you sign up today, you get the whole of February free, because today's February 2nd, which is Black History Month. Happy Black History Month. Really, you know, Black History is every day, but that's a whole different conversation. So if you sign up today, you get the whole of February for free and the whole of March. Don't sign up on the 1st of a month. So if you signed up yesterday, you probably just get a few hours free, if that, and then you get March free. So if you're looking for a hosting account, podcast hosting account, go to libsyn.com, check it out. The promo code you need to get the free months is ADE. Ade, that's my name. Use it, and it will get you through play. It will get you through doors, is what I'm trying to say. So go there and check it out. What's the other thing I want to tell you? I want to tell you about the weekly show that I co-host with Ricky Byers every Wednesday, if you're in America, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, and 2 a.m. UK time, GMT. Soulful songs and conversations. So Ricky and I, we get together. She tells stories about her song, what inspired it. And it's kind of similar to what we do here, but all of it is geared towards supporting people to access that space and that place within, where there's clarity, where there's truth, where there's understanding, where there's abundance. That, you know, it's about inviting you to go to your spiritual gym. And you're not feeling like you're just out here in the world, not strong enough to deal with what's coming at you. So that's every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, and Thursday morning in UK, 2 a.m. GMT. And the other thing I want to say is, so I was interviewed a few days ago by my, she's really a friend, so I can say my friend. Friend has so many meanings nowadays. Francesca James. I interviewed Francesca James on Life Conversations Radio many years ago. And she reached out to me, and we had a wonderful conversation on her podcast. To find her podcast, go to weneedeachothernoww.org/podcast. We Need Each Other Now.org/podcast. On there, you'll see I'm the latest podcast. The title is Representing Our Ancestors. We had an amazing conversation. I was on fire by the time I finished. You know, I love sharing truth and tools and technologies that can help people come back to themselves. And check it out. I'm not going to waste a lot of time. Go check it out. You know, if we're talking about what I talked about, when you're going to listen to it anyway. Today's topic is understanding darkness and light. And Rev D is going to come and do what she does in about 15 minutes. But I want to take this moment to just kind of share with you. And this is what I would call an authentic share, authentic ask. And It's something that I've done before, and I know that I have been sort of holding back in sharing it. And it's not so much holding back in sharing it. It's what I'm about to share is something that I've struggled with. And I can even feel myself feeling kind of vulnerable as I start to talk about it. I even feel interesting. I feel emotional about it too. When we started Life Conversations Radio, Ambassador, my former wife, when we started Life Conversations Radio in 2006, yeah, that's when we started it in Hastings, UK. You know, the idea, the vision was always about engagement. It was always about engagement. So we share, the listeners share, they ask questions. We had the radio station had a call-in number where people can call in. Literally, we use money we didn't have at the moment to get all those things in place. We bought equipment so people can call and other listeners can hear and we can answer the questions. We're teachers or spiritual teachers. We know we have a tool. We know we have a gift, and we were sharing tools. We know that we help people. We're healers. We know how we help people when we're not on the radio. So we were presenting that to the world. Yes, that's what we're here to do. We will do it whether people are listening or not. I will do what I'm doing. When I was doing 4 shows a week, people used to say to me, wow, 4 shows a week. How do you do that? I'm like, I just do it. And I tell people, if I wasn't doing this radio show 4 days a week, I'll be doing exactly what I'm doing. Teaching, counseling, readings. I'm born for this. I know that I am a teacher. I know that I'm an artist. I'm a creative artist. I know that I'm a healer. The word healer has so many connotations. A healer for me is someone who's doing the work, and doing the work is taking time to tune into the divine, get guidance and what to do, how to go about it. I'm doing what I'm here to do. So as a healer, I create space for people to access the healer in them. However you other people want to define healer, that's on them. You know, we are one. I heal you, you heal me, and we heal each other. Sometimes we just got to decolonize our minds. We get so caught up in it. And I know those terms, those titles can be abused, but I digress. So anyway, over the years, one of the things that I've struggled with is really getting engagement with the shows. I've had many guests, internationally known guests, people who are, someone in the community who's doing great work that feels like, I'm nobody, but I just wrote a book. I bring them on because we're in this together. We're in this together, right? But one of the things that has been difficult is really getting people to share, to ask questions. And today, my authentic ask and share is I'm inviting you to be part of the conversation. And sometimes I have the story about us in the spiritual community. We don't want to, if you will, what's the word? Show our dirty laundry. There's another way of saying that. But I think it's a human nature thing. We see it, whatever country you're in, we want to highlight the great things about us and the things that we don't like, the shadow self, speaking of darkness and light. We want to kind of like, no, we don't need people to know that. And sometimes we'll just keep looking for different tools to get better, where what is being asked of us really is to reveal the part of us that's uncomfortable, like for me. And speaking of uncomfortable, when I was talking to Leslie about this yesterday, I was like, oh my God, you're tapping into something that I've been struggling with. And I keep asking, why can't I get people to engage? Like really share stories, not just, oh yes, I needed to hear that. Oh, amen. And really, I appreciate the engagement that I've had, but I'm telling you, there's something where as a teacher, I know when people ask questions or talk about how they use something that they hear in a tool, a principle, and how it changed their lives. And it's a giving and receiving. It is liberating. I love questions. I know Rev D does too, because that's why I love coaching. That's why I love counseling, because it takes me to a different realm. I hear myself saying things that I didn't even know a few seconds before I started saying it. So I'm inviting you to engage with us. Share your questions. Maybe there's a show that you watch. You listen to a show, and like last week we had Deshauna Spencer talking about quality TV. Share if you signed up. What show you watch on there? How it's changed your mind? This is what is needed. Interaction. Interact with the guests. Ask them questions. There's something on here which I thank you for that. Comment live. Be part of the dialogue, because this is about being you, being me, all of us being together. It's about us being heard. And here's the thing, sometimes we think we're the only one dealing with something, so we don't want to say it out loud because we don't want people to judge us. But you actually speed up your healing. I know that. You speed up your healing when you express what you're dealing with. And on top of that, somebody else is in the room who's saying, that's my story. And then the answer that they get from me or the guest helps them feel liberated. Now you've opened this Pandora box of healing, and because you've been the channel, they're getting healed. Because they're getting healed, healing is coming back to wholeness. They go about their day differently. They interact with customers, with their friends, with their lovers, with their husbands, with their wives, with their children differently. So the healing is just multiplying. It's like a ripple effect. So my ask is, and if there's let's just say, well, I interact. I don't know what else you're asking. Well, maybe there's some things that you want to see, maybe things you want to hear that you think we wish you would do that, but I don't want to tell them how to do a show. Send me an email. Go to lifecoachade.com. If you do it through the social media platform, do it through the Facebook page, Being You podcast page. I have several pages on there, but I don't check all of them regularly. If you want to reach me directly, just go to lifecoachade.com and go to the contact page. If you're somebody that that you think would be great, if it's yourself, if you're afraid, if you have a topic, but I'm just inviting you to be part of the shift that's happening in the world. You don't have to come to me, come to a guest here and showing up as if you got your shift together. I don't mean shift, right? I mean crap. Because when you come knowing that there's some parts of my life that I'm working through, that's how the shift happens. When we pretend we got all our shift together, there ain't no shift. Because being in this human experience itself is the reason. Well, the issues that we deal with, the things that we're calling the issues, the struggles, the challenge, the things that are stopping you that you feel like, why is this always happening to me? This is why you're here. You're here to bring the light. You're here to shine your light. You're here to heal the past in the present. One thing I can say strongly, I'm not going to do, well, I don't know. I don't want to say it so much, but I'm going to say it now. I'm not going to do sleazy shows or sleazy topics because I think it's going to get people talking. I'm not interested. I'm interested in returning us back to a consciousness of wholeness, unity, oneness. I was created to be about healing. So even if I try to talk about ratchetness, it's this, I'm going to go down the spiritual path by default, challenging people. What part of this are you creating? So, if you have topics that you want to share, please do share it. If there's some reason, as I said earlier, why you don't really engage, share it. I know sometimes some people are, maybe working, so they can't really engage and ask questions or say things. But the show is archived. It's archived. You can always put your comments. We can address it. Every now and then I do what I call now the afterthought. Sometimes there's a show and there's some thoughts that I wish could have been shared better, differently, should I say. Not better, differently, but sometimes maybe better. I don't know. But I'll do a little segment called Afterthought. That could be something we can talk about. But really, being you is for us. It's for you. It's supporting you to be who you are. So I'm inviting you to engage, to interact with us. It's a way that you can give back to us. Life, it's about giving and receiving, and we all grow together. So that's all I got to say about that. Let me say, that's all I got to say about that. That's my best version of what is it called again? The movie Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump. That's right, Leslie. You can laugh at me. That's all I got to say about that. I have a friend, Monique, would say, "You and your," what she says, "your British Nigerian Southern accent." Yeah, that's what you heard. So thank you all for being here. Those of you who are listening behind the scenes, and Kwali. See, I'm going to be stumbling on your name now, Kwali, because you told me Kwali is the what's the word pronunciation that you prefer. So I'm going to call you that, Kwali. But if you change your mind, let me know, because names are very important. How it sounds is very important. I go through that on a daily basis. We have LNC. Thank you, LNC. I appreciate that. I think a part of me resisted. Well, there was a part of me that was resisting sharing that, because I feel like, come on now, stop being so, I don't know, it's not so vulnerable, because I don't really have a lot of resistance about. I do have resistance about being vulnerable, but it's something that I've struggled with. It's like I'm telling you, people. Sometimes I'm like, I just don't know why I can get people to engage. And if you think you know, if you send me a message saying, I'll tell you why you ain't getting engagement, you act like you know everything. Nobody can tell you nothing. Well, tell me, and I can say you're wrong, because I know I'm right. Oh, that's sweet. I won't. Quali. No, actually, no. Quali is what Deshauna calls her thing. Quali said, "You have always called me what your spirit wants to call me." Okay. I don't know about that now, because some people, their spirit be telling them to call my name a certain kind of way. Ade, Edie, Addy, Eddie. No, tell your spirit wrong. So I tell people with my name, Ade, there are many variations. There's Ade, Ade, Ade. And I often joke, but it's true. I don't even say my name correctly. But it's not that I don't say it correctly. I say it in a way that makes it easier for people in the Western world to be able to say it, because the correct pronunciation is Ade, Ade, so which means crown. Hence my logo. I'm a king by default. Royalty runs in our family. That's not something that's made up. That's the thing about Nigerian names. African names tell you about the family, their heritage, and that doesn't mean we're better than anybody. Just our culture, our tradition. So the logo has the infinity sign, because I tap into spirit. I'm connected to spirit, and the heart is the love. Love for me, it's my thing. There was a time when I used to be afraid to say love or God, because often people think, when they think of love, a romantic thing, and it's something that comes and goes. But no, I'm talking about unconditional love. I'm talking about matured love. Love that is a verb, when you choose to love, even when everything around you might be saying, "You sure you want to love?" You're loving because you know that is for your own healing. That's for your own liberation. Anyway, so the thing about my name, the right pronunciation, Ade, when people, particularly, people in the Western world, and that includes black and white, generally speaking, there's some black people who say it. There's some people who say it right the first time. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I get excited when people get my name right. But when people in Western world try to say my name, somehow they think they now have to be African. If I tell them the right pronunciation, Ade, they just suddenly go into character. Ade. I'm like, calm down. Calm down. You don't know. Ade. No, take a breath and just say Ade. It's not that deep. So I'm like, okay, how do you say Ade? Yeah, that's good. So anyway, Quali, yes. Names are important to me. And so yeah. Yeah, let's just take a breath. And I could feel all sorts of things after sharing that. So also the other thing I need to tell you, as we move forward, you're noticing a lot of different things have shifted, right? The graphic is different. Things are, we're upgrading, we're rebranding, and making sure that we share contents, produce contents that would change your life if you apply it. And the other thing is, during shows, you will see questions flash up that Leslie will post. And those questions are meant for you to sort of tap in and really respond to it. That's part of the engagement thing, but I forgot to say that earlier, because we want to know what you're feeling, what you're thinking about the show. If you maybe you come to a show thinking, oh, I thought it was going to be A, but it's B. Well, can you guys speak on this? Your voice truly matters. So when we post the questions, I'm inviting you to respond, to share, whether it's live or while it's archived. Share your response. It really, I'm telling you, it's like anything. When you feed what's feeding you, everybody grows. This is a dance. I do it because I'm designed, created to do this. And I've had, to really tell the truth, some of you know there was a time I was off the air because I had to regroup and see how what I'm doing as a business. I mean, I can do this free all day, but as a business, is it sustaining me? So when I left 1-2 Radio and started doing the Ade show on Facebook, and well, I think it was just Facebook. I don't think I was doing it on YouTube then. There's a time I took a break because I realized how I was doing it wasn't working for me. And then doing my spiritual work and working with branding coaches and just kind of figuring this thing out, I slowly came back out. And I think I came out just before the pandemic. Actually, no, I was doing the podcast. And then I think it was around the first Tuesday in April. It was during the pandemic. So I thought, let me invite Rev D. And because I know that she has something that she can share with the world that is needed. And I just found out about StreamYard. And, talking about podcasts, if you want to do something like this, let me know. I also have a link that I can offer to you. I don't post that out there. That if you want to try it out and get a discount, I'll get something, you get something. But StreamYard is such a great platform. But anyway, I found out about StreamYard. I did a show with Rev D. I tested it out. I loved it. And during that show, I wasn't planning to do live podcast. My podcast then was pre-recorded. I pre-recorded, spent hours editing, criticizing, re-recording. That was a lot of work. Anyway. And then during that show, Spirit said, this is how you're going to be doing your podcast moving forward. I was like, oh, wait, I'm not ready for this. But oftentimes, Spirit doesn't call you when you're ready. Well, Spirit is always calling us. Spirit, the divine God, whatever name you want to call it. Spirit is always calling us. Spirit, divine is always nudging us forward. Because not only are we are freedom-seeking beings, we're looking at ways to express ourselves, to be ourselves. Also, there is something inside of you. There's a potential. There's something that wants to be birthed. You're pregnant with possibility. So whatever you're doing, wherever you are, whether you hate the job, whether you love the job, whether you hate the country, or whether you feel like you're not connected to a country you were born in and you have no idea, no intention to come back to the country, and the divine is like, no, I got a plan for you. First of all, I'm going to send you to a retreat for 40 days and 40 nights to get your together. And then we're going to have you back in the United Kingdom so you can really heal what needs to be healed. And, this spiritual awareness, spiritual understanding is not for avoiding pain and struggle. I don't know if you can do that. I hear people say, never experience fear again. I don't know if you can do that. What I know is when you are feeling fearful, oftentimes, if not all the time, it's more about how you're thinking about it. And I would challenge you that next time you find yourself feeling scared, fearful, become present to what is happening and challenge yourself. Just think a thought like, I'm enjoying this. Oh, this is so much fun. Something good is going to come out of it, no matter how horrible it is. Well, let Spirit be your guide on that, because I just heard another thought. If someone is beating the life out of you, literally, That's not what I'm saying. But the kind of situation that's happening in your world, maybe you don't have enough money to cover your bills. You're looking at something on the news and you're panicking. You know, a 9-year-old handcuffed and pepper sprayed and being told that you're acting like a child, and she had to tell a grown ass man, "I am a child, mother, father." But anyway, I digress. I had to tell a grown man, "Yes, I am a child." But in moments like that, when you're feeling scared for your own children, for your own self, change your thought and saying, you know, I'm tapping into my joy. I'm going to access my joy. I'm going to access peace. Change your thought, and you will find that you are going to feel different. I'm telling you what I know. I'm telling you what I know. There are some times where you can't do that, and there are times when you can do that. I talked about my 40-day experience, 40-day and 40-night in a detention center. And I had panic attack. And for those of you who are saying, "Where's Rev D? Who is this guy? Don't sound like Rev D. She's coming. She's not here." Well, she is now. She's Divine Order. See? Divine Order. Rev Divine Order's in the house. That's her nickname. That's what I'm going to call her. Rev Divine is here. Anyway, so let me say this. So when I had that panic attack for the first time, which broke something open inside of me, that when I'm in a confined space, when I was moving here, I had a friend moving with me, and the space I was in was very small and very tight, and I could feel myself hyperventilate. And I had to really talk to myself, like, breathe, and bring myself back. And so much so, when I'm in a confined space nowadays, it's not as bad as it used to be. I have to come back to what is true about me to get me out of that, because I'm changing my mind. For some of us, yes, you may need some medical assistance, but I'm saying we have the power to change, to shift how we're looking and how we're interpreting what we're looking at. So that's it. Today we're talking about understanding darkness and the light. Darkness and light. There are many definitions. It means different things for a lot of people. And as I said earlier, there are those of us who would say, "Oh yeah, we're living in some dark times right now." We throw the words around, and you know, there's something about Rev D, how she breaks things down. I'm telling you, there's going to be some things that get unlocked in your mind, because Rev D just has a way with language and, you know, just unlocking what's already inside of us. So I'm going to read her bio for those who don't know. If you don't know about Rev D, you're missing out, but we're taking care of that right now because you're here. Reverend Deborah L. Johnson is a lifelong social justice activist with a passion for healing social, political, and cultural divides. Founder of Inner Light Ministries, board member of the Pachamama Alliance, and founding member with Michael Bernard Beckwith of Agape International Spiritual Center. She's also the author of The Sacred Yes and Your Deepest Intent. Mine is kind of, the covers are raggedy, but it lets you know that I'm using it. It's just not on my shelf. Now I'm telling you, you pick this book up and just open up to a page. I won't do it now because I want to bring Rev D on. You'll get hooked. The divine will get your attention. Spirit is always communicating. To find out more about Rev D, you can go to her website, Deborah L. Johnson. That's Deborah, DEBORAH Johnson.org. You can find her on Facebook, Rev Deborah Johnson, Deborah _ on Twitter, and Rev Deborah L. Johnson on Instagram. Just Google her. She's Googleable. You'll find her. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, psychics and skeptics, physical beings and non-physical beings, help me welcome my mentor, my friend, my sister, myself, Rev D.
Hey there.
You're Googleable, Rev D. I can Google you now and everything about you I can see.
I love that word. It made me laugh. How you doing?
Oh, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. You know, this thing about spiritual growth and transformation, it's like it calls for you to go to places that normally you don't want to go to. And if I even think it reminds it nudges us to be more vulnerable, to speak the truth, to kind of put it out there, to be led by the heart. And sometimes I don't want to put my heart out. But when it's time to do it, I always know. And I can also say that when that happens, when I'm being nudged to go to places that was once uncomfortable, I usually know that it's time to do it.
Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Well, it's kind of interesting how everybody wants transformation, but nobody wants to change.
I know that's right. Yes.
And by definition, that's what the word means.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to trans is to go beyond, to go past. You know, there's movement there. So when you transform, you're going beyond your former forms.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's happening. That's what time of day it is.
Yes.
So be careful what you pray for.
Ooh, because it will show up. It will show up. I can testify. Well,
yeah. Do you really want to transform?
Do you really want to change? Do you really want to be free? Are you willing for a government retreat? It's like, no. Can I be changed without having to be detained? But I didn't know that I was being invited to be with myself. I came to know myself in a whole new way. And
well, you know, I gotta commend you, my brother, walking that journey with you. Your journey made a believer out of me. It really did. It really did. And it's one of those things where when I look at how you landed in the UK with sisters fighting over who's gonna get you. Right. And you know, was it your dad you hadn't seen in 15 years or something like that? And all of these, you know, nieces and nephews and not being able to travel, not being able to come back home because of the whole, you know, like situation. And I've watched you, like I say, your sisters go fatten you up and give you that good Nigerian food.
They have. Every time I look at my stomach, I'm like, oh God. I don't know which one I prefer. When I wasn't eating much and I had a flat stomach, or now that I'm eating every day and the stomach is kind of round.
and what I know is that at some point everybody's got to go home. Literally and metaphorically, more often literally.
Yes.
And as I've explained to you before, there's something about your Trinity, the fact that you've got Nigerian roots, born and raised in the UK, and lived like 20 something years in Atlanta, that the whole African diaspora story, like all of that, is running through your veins. Running through your veins. You know, the U.S. was the last stop on the slave trade. It was the end of the line.
Yes.
You know, and the fact that you were there in Atlanta and Georgia, like in the heart of it. There's some men on that. God gonna use that, my brother, in a way for global healing and understanding, is you really like root into all of that. It's going to be a blessing. I'm not saying it was a fun ride. Right? It wasn't fun. But
yeah. Thank you for that. It's true. It is
and biblical proportions. 40 days
and 40 nights.
Yeah. That's just biblical.
Yeah. I was like, over here in UK, they say, "Are you having a laugh?" I remember there were times I'm looking at God, like, "God, you're having a laugh, aren't you? You're really playing with me right now, okay? I don't feel like being played with. I want to get out of this detention center. Stop playing with me." But and I tell you, coming back here, and just for people may find this helpful in their journey. Talk about change and transformation. When I was told that I have no option, I won't be able to see the judge or whatever, that I'm coming back to the UK. No, they're sending me back to the UK. And I'd been resisting it. And I spoke to the immigration officer. I just remember saying, okay, God, if going back to England is the highest and best, I surrender. I surrender. I felt my whole being shift. I mean, I was walking around in that place differently. My conversation was different because I started to see things that I didn't see before.
Yes.
Because I was blinded. I was blinded by my own. I want to get the hell out of here. I don't belong here. This is too much. I just said, I surrender. And, I really can say that surrendering made the transition coming back here a lot easier. I wasn't rigid. I wasn't mad. I wasn't bitter. I was open.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it speaks to this topic, of the darkness and light.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm coming at this now from the most profoundly spiritual standpoint. And that is, the darkness is the void. It's the womb. It's the place of all possibilities. We've made, in our Western culture, we've made the darkness something bad and something negative. But technically speaking, the light comes out of darkness. Even scripture starts off, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. There was a spirit letter. It's not published, but it really struck me in speaking about this, where it was saying, don't confuse the spiritual darkness with your human. Don't confuse the spiritual void with your human darkness. It said the void is empty. It's empty. It's this place of absolute expansion. It said there's nothing empty about your human darkness. It is full of all of your angst. It's full of all of your angst. In the darkness, we can't see as well. That's when you say you went to that place of the surrender. You went into the void. You went into the womb of all possibility. See, that place of void is the place of the pure potentiality. It has the raw stuff, but it's not a bunch of specific forms in there. It's the raw stuff that comes out of it. Birth always happens that way. The womb is a place of dark, that inner place of gestation. The seeds go in the ground to germinate. They're not topside for everybody to be looking at. That you have to steal away to these places that seem unknown and that you can't see, and give your full consent and assent to it.
Yeah. Whew. Take a breath on that. I do need to take a breath on that. I don't know about anybody else. And I like how you said the human darkness. And I think that helps to make a distinction of what we're talking about. Earlier, before you joined us, I was saying that, how we mix the words light and darkness. We can say we're living in dark times. And I want to sort of talk about what's happening in the world right now, wrapped with this topic, because I know that is important. What I found, especially at the early stages of my spiritual practice, spiritual journey, it's like when I learn about the spiritual principles, I'm like, yes, let me go out there in the world and live it and be the light. And then there's this other experience like, I don't know, they don't match. So I started to believe there's the spiritual life and there's the human life. And there are some experiences that happen in the world that sometimes it's just hard to kind of see, to step into that place of oneness. And one of the things that's happening that I saw today on YouTube, I heard about on Twitter and then went online to look at it. You may have heard about this. It's the 9-year-old girl in New York who was handcuffed and pepper sprayed in just the way she was treated. And when I was watching that video today, I had a struggle being able to see. I was enraged. Let me just say it like that. I was enraged. And I started to, just the way it happens when we're planning for shows, things happen and I hear spirit talking to me. And it's like, how can we communicate understanding light and darkness as being a spiritual things and everyone is part of the oneness and we're all children of God, while another human being, an adult, is treating a child like this? And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but Rev D is going to speak to it. When we're dealing with situations like that we see on news in our own lives, and there's sometimes a struggle to bring, not bring it, but to see God in it, to see the truth in it. How do we do that? I don't know if you saw the video. I mean, in situations like that. And then there's also about the child being black and the police officers are white. And so it has a lot of nuances to it. It just makes me go, to hell with spiritual truth. Them need to be locked up and something. How do we bring ourselves back to the center?
You have to shift your perspective. That you're starting off with the worldly events as the given. And you're trying to see where is there truth in all of this mess. Okay. It would be like an algebraic equation. You can't solve an equation with all variables. There has to be a constant somewhere. Mm-hmm. And too many of us make the stuff of the world the constant. And then we make spirit the variable. The given is the illness. The given is the destruction. The given is the madness and the divorce and the violence, So God's the variable. Spirit's the variable. Like, well, how much is there? Could it be? It's the other way around. The given is God. God is all there is. It's not where is God in all of this mess, but how does all of this mess fit within God? That's a different question. If God is everything, where does this thing fall within the everything? That becomes a much easier question to answer. People's actions don't measure their goodness, their badness. They measure their ignorance or their awareness. Whoever had the pepper spray didn't know that that child was a child of God. Whoever had the pepper spray didn't know that they themselves were a child of God. This is a person suffering from spiritual amnesia.
Yeah.
This is a person who doesn't know who they are. So, why should we collude with their spiritual amnesia? They don't know who they are. We don't need to forget who they are. Somebody's got to hold a place of remembrance. Somebody's got to keep the light on, so to speak, for the great awakening, for people to heal, to grow, to transform, to come out of it. There are atrocities that happen all over the place.
Yeah. Every day.
All the time. I'm not trying to excuse that. But I find there's like a great irony when you talk about the great superpowers of the world, you know, the big democracies and stuff, the G6, the G7. And I find it very interesting that we're up in there with Germany. We're up in there with Japan. And we dropped not one, but 2 atomic bombs on Japan, days apart, where we could already know what happened. We are the only country in the world that's ever dropped an atomic bomb. I mean, wipe out everything. Pepper spray don't compare to that. And we're the ones trying to police who gets to have the atomic bombs.
Right.
Who made us the nuclear police? All I'm saying is that what we call the darkness is forgetfulness. It's lack of remembrance. There isn't something substantively dark. It's all on a continuum. It's just on a continuum. Just like your health, it's just on a continuum of illness, vitality. You can't really get rid of illness. You up your health. You up your health. It's the same thing. We can't undo the nuclear bombs. We can't undo the pepper spray. We can't undo any of that. But if we spend all of our time focusing on it and not our potential, we're likely to repeat it again. Because that's our frequency. Sometimes we have to see things to shock us.
Yeah.
Sometimes we've got to see things to shock us. What really helped me get this is a letter in your sacred yes, in the sacred yes, the white cover book that you held up. And I believe it's in the letter is versus exist, if I'm not mistaken.
Right here.
And it said, we say you reap what you sow. Said that's not exactly accurate. It's as you reap, as you sow, so shall you reap. That's different. It's not a quid pro quo universe. It's not a tit for tat. You give me this, I get that. It's the manner in which you sow is the manner in which you reap. the manner in which you treat people, the manner in which you forgive, the manner in which you're compassionate, it's like that's what happens. And then it said, the seeds are mine. All of it's mine. When you think with my mind. When you create with my creativity. When you love with my heart. All the seeds are mine. The sowing and the reaping is what you do with my seeds. It's how you handle my seeds. But because they're my seeds, there's always a possibility of something good coming out of it, regardless of how it was sown or reaped. Because the seeds are mine. This, even if what comes out of it is the awareness that this should never happen again. Even if it's no more than that.
Yeah.
It should never happen again. And what I know is that, just like we were talking about with your deportation, I remember when I was in Africa at the slave castles, slave dungeons, Cape Coast, with Brother Ishmael Tete. And Brother Ishmael was saying to me, to Valerie and me, that just think about this, that we from the United States, at the end of the slave trade, we were the survivors of the survivors' survivors. He said, you were from the strongest of all of those who could survive that. And when I think about it, how I think we're something like, if I recall when I did the math, so the Americans are like 5% of the world's population, and we're only like 12% of that. So we're like 0.00000, percent of the whole world's population. And he was saying, and look at the influence you have in the world.
Yeah.
Those of you in America from the African diaspora, you can't travel any place without people listening to our music.
That's right.
Wearing our clothes, doing our style, our swag, our sports, and just, and he was basically saying, not that it was a good thing, but who knows? Maybe part of it was to put you in that position to influence the world. To bring soul and the rhythm and the beat and the like to the world. Like, who knows?
That's right.
Who knows? What I do know is that if you will move beyond your judgment, I remember when I was in college reading Eli Wiesel's work, The Courage to Be, and hearing like the Holocaust experiences, Man's Search for Meaning. It's the book. Like unthinkable tragedy. And you can say, well, where's the God in all of this? It's the fact that all of that was happening in God. Because all of that was still happening in God. God was still there. So anybody in despair could still reach out and touch God. Slavery was still happening in God. So the ancestors could, in the cotton fields, you know, even if it was just a moan. You know, they're praying in the middle of it. Our problem when we name things and say, well, like, these are dark times, we have to also be a little bit careful there with the not so subtle racism. We just call it what it is.
Yes.
Where we associate dark with bad, as opposed to dark with possibility. The dark horse, the black sheep. There was a famous experiment that was done. Thurgood Marshall, in the Brown versus Board of Education court case in front of the United Supreme Court, which ended school segregation in the United States. This was back in 1954. And it was this infamous study that was done again not too long ago with the same results, unfortunately. You can look it up on YouTube, where they took black kids and they put two dolls in front of them, a white doll and a dark doll. And they asked these black kids, which doll looks more like you? And the responses were either one or two things. They either chose the white doll, regardless of the fact that their skin tone looked nothing like that doll, but that was the good doll. Or they would start to break down and cry in choosing the dark doll, which they were associating with being the bad doll. So I'm just saying that to say that, what do we mean when we say these were dark times? Maybe we need to stop using that word. Maybe we need to start saying, whatever, these are troubling times. These are challenging times. These are divisive times. These are complicated times. These are, you know, like, what do you really mean? And I think that might help to shift us a bit out of that.
Yeah. There's several things that come up for me. Well, a lot of different things come up for me as I listen to you. So I want to start here and go somewhere and see where it leads, and then I'm going to throw it over to you. When you talked about the atrocities that happened, and you talked about this is happening in God, I can feel, even in myself, people like, how can something so horrible, how can she say something horrible happening in God? Because we have this idea of God is good, and the only thing that happens in God or through God has got to be good. But this is something bad. And then we associate God to be the light, and the darkness is the devil. So as you were saying, this whole thing about racism is it's something I've thought about for a long time, is because I wonder, I'm like, how can a race of people, white people, can be so hell-bent on demonizing another human being just for the color of their skin? So clearly they must think because they are white, closer to the light, they're in God, and black people are not. I know you're ready, so I'm not even going to ask any questions.
Well, yeah, it's I want to flip it a little bit. The white wasn't about the demonization. The white is about supremacy. You got to start there.
But isn't there thinking of whites being the closer to the light, which is more what God is?
That's my point.
Okay.
But it isn't. It wasn't so much demonization as it was dehumanization. There's a difference. It wasn't so much that all these Black people are really people and are just evil, but that God has established a pecking order, a hierarchical pecking order, and we as white are made in the image and the likeness of this white God. And these Black people are not as human. They're actually subhuman. And because they didn't believe in evolution, they didn't believe, for example, that we were descendants of primates and like had any kind of connection. In their cosmology, human beings were just separate and distinct from the rest of the animal kingdom, so to speak. It's like there's human beings, and then there's like these animals. So they create this race construct in order it's a social construct for economic means and economic purposes that justifies they're using all of these Black bodies like crude oil as just a natural resource on the planet, like a horse or an ox, like literally like beasts of the field, with the collusion of the Catholic Church that deems that we don't have a soul. That we don't have a soul. Initially, a lot of that stuff was more religious than racial in terms of the missionaries and the colonists and whatnot, that we were considered heathens along with the indigenous tribes. And there was the effort to try to convert us to Christianity because our religions were pagan and, blah, 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 blah. But it is some audacity, there's no question about it, to have yourself up so high that you think you even have the right to do that. That's a malady of the soul. And it still exists today.
Yes.
And it's got to be healed. Because it's all based upon a bunch of false paradigms, false understandings, and none of it is true. There is no innate superiority. There's none. That's why we can exchange body parts and blood, because it ain't no thing. It's like what we consider race is less than 0.001% of our DNA. It's a human construct. It's a human construct. And the thing is that I think part of the problem that we're having here is that we keep trying to make, it's the colonization of our minds. We keep trying to make light and dark something different. But even as it says in scripture, the darkness and the light are the same to thee. They literally inform each other. It's more like a yin yang. It's more like a yin yang. That what we call light, that we can like physically see, it just is. You know, you can't, it's like you can't make illumination. You can't like make the light kind of thing. You can take away the darkness. You know, I mean, it's the other way around. That you can't make the darkness. All you can do is introduce light. Everything is like a continuation of illumination. So
because everything starts with a void, right?
And what we know of as light comes out of that void. If you look at a rainbow or like a prism or something like that, it's the way that the light refracts on it and creates like these multicolors, these rainbow colors. And light, what we call white, like pure healing energy, white light, is a really, really, really high frequency. It's such a high frequency that it's invisible. You can't even see it or touch it. This is the kind of irony. It's like it looks like we're standing still, but we're not. We're spinning so quickly that it feels like we're not moving. And if it weren't for gravity, we'd be spun out into space. Well, it's kind of like that with the darkness and the light, is that we keep thinking of them as being separate things, but they're not. They're just manners and degrees of expression. But everything ultimately is coming out of this place of the void that we needn't be afraid of. We have to cultivate it. We have to love it. We have to embrace the unknown with a healthy curiosity. Because when we think we got to know everything, when we think everything got to be lit up,
got to be lit.
Nothing grows like that. If you keep digging up the soil so that you can see the seed growing, you're going to kill it. You can't see in the womb. The stuff of creation comes out of this like cocoon kind of space. And we've got to be okay with that. When we give up the need to try to control everything, we forget that just because we're not in control doesn't mean it's out of control. It's fear.
So sometimes hard to ask a question like you don't know when you already know. But I'm going to play a role here. Because talking about everything coming out of the void, and then the idea of God is good. So how can something so bad come out of God? It seems to me, first of all, we need a new understanding of what God is, especially when we talk about religion, what we've been taught about who and what God is. And as I listen to you, I'm wondering if we start, well, let me just get it out. Don't overthink. If we start seeing God as the void, I'll speak for myself, because there are times where, because of programming, I'm still part of this world that I live in, that sometimes it's just hard to me to get that a grown ass man will mistreat a 9-year-old. So I go into, they should be punished. I get in there with them, now forgotten who I am, as well as they're forgetting who they are. But if I start to see this thing called God as the void where everything comes out of, it shifts me in how I'm seeing what's happening, because there's still a part of me, and as I'm talking to you, I'm kind of recognizing this. There's still a part of me that's like, let me say it the way it is, but it's not the best way. You cannot come from God and be so evil. I'm trying to put it a different way, but that's the best way I got right now. It's like, how can you come from God?
But see, here's what it's. You can't judge by the appearances or from our sensory perception.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This God is good is it's constitutionally good. It's not just a relative this versus that. It's that, linguistically speaking, it's defined as a benevolence.
Mm-hmm.
A benevolence. That with the benevolence, there's always this potentiality for the blessing. So first off, there's only this energetic field. Even the quantum physicists would tell us that your body is mainly space. That your body is basically empty. And it is a void. Most of the body is not material. Most of the body is like outer space. It's space. Everything is happening in the space. It isn't that God is omnipotent or just omniscient or omnipresent. God is omnipresent. God is pure presence. So what happens here is that human beings have been given agency. We have been given the power to utilize God's creative energies. Why God chose to share that with human beings, I'll never know. Because I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. But if you can create anything, you can create everything. A fire. Is a fire good or bad? A fire can warm your house. A fire can burn it down. Is a knife good or bad? A knife can carve a beautiful chair. And a knife can stab you, depending upon how you use the energy. All I'm saying is that the energy itself, that dunamis, that pure capacity to do, is fundamentally of its nature good. Now, what you do with it may not be all that good if you don't know you're good.
Yeah.
Hurt people hurt people. I don't know that person. But if I was a betting person, I would bet money on the fact that that person was an abused child. Child molesters were molested.
Yeah.
We have pity and empathy for them when they are children being molested. And then we don't have pity for them when they are adults molesting. We become what we don't forgive. It's the cycles of abuse. So you can say, I get mad at this grown man doing this to a child. What I see is a grown child continuing the cycles of abuse. Because they don't know better.
Right.
They don't know their own value, let alone the value of the child. To think that that's going to make them feel stronger and more superior. Just like rape's not about sex. Rape is about power. It's not even about demonizing the person raped, so much as it is an act for the raper to have a greater sense of self-esteem, in power and agency by what they're able to do over somebody. So it's just a measurement to me that somehow or another, as a society, we let somebody slip through the cracks.
Yes.
As a society, that person didn't get what they needed. Does that take them off the hook? I'm not saying that they're not accountable or that they shouldn't go to jail or whatever. I'm just saying that it's too smug for us to just sit there and blame, a whole bunch of people for what they're doing. We have a responsibility to lift everybody up. If we really cared for people, fed them, clothed them, educated them, gave them sports and arts and belonging and, boys club and girls club and, camping and musical instruments and, if we just loved each other. I remember seeing a show once. I do prison outreach. And I remember seeing a show about prisons in China. And it was just extraordinary. These prisons don't have any bars. This was a male prison. They lived in the equivalent of like army barracks, kind of dormitories. And everything was so incredibly neat and precise. Every towel on the rack, like everything had to be like just so. They grew their own food and gardened their own food. And there was a certain amount of time every day that they had to do art.
In prison.
Yes. These beautiful mosaics and needlepoint and all of this kind of intricate stuff that it was part of their daily thing, and caring for the animals and, tilling the ground and, no farm equipment. They had to do everything by hand, like intimately, like in the dirt. their recidivism rate, something like under 2%. Like under 2% of the people that were in prison go back.
What is it in America?
Oh, Lord. Well, I mean, well, yeah, I mean, some it depends on where it was. Sometimes it was like up over 50%. But part of the reason why I said, oh, Lord, is that they've changed the rules so that we'll never know.
Wow, really?
Mm-hmm. In most places, they have stopped what we call parole. So as soon as people get out, they're like out. So when you get picked up again, it's a whole new case. So you don't even track anymore. Like, is this the same person? The recidivism is like, do you come back before you actually were complete? Yeah, we don't even know.
So I'm having this shift happen in my mind. And I don't know, you may have seen me look up every now and then. I'm like, okay, you're on camera, look back down. And, you know, earlier you talked about how the darkness, the light comes from the void. And the thought that's coming up for me is, I'm wondering, is as human beings made in an image and likeness of God, the void, when we forget that we're made in the image and likeness of God and the void, we stay in the human voidness rather than express the light in us.
We stay in the human darkness.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yes.
So when someone is operating from a human darkness, one of the best things what we can contribute is to see them as a child of God, as you said earlier. And then, you know, in the spiritual community, we always talk about sending light. That can mean a lot of different things. Sometimes the spiritual, I'm sending light. But anyway, I won't go down there. But to really hold this grown child in the light of God, in the light of truth. So really, when we observe things that make me angry, that makes us angry, we could make that be a reminder to do our work. This is a prayer request to lift a police officers, or this politician, or this leader, this supervisor, to lift them up in our own consciousness, that they can catch a glimpse of what is more about them than in just defining themselves according to the human darkness that they're choosing to align with.
Yes. This is the stuff of nonviolent social justice. There's nothing nonviolent about nonviolent social justice, except that the people purporting the change are the ones that don't use the violence.
Mm-hmm.
But they're like, I'm just going to love you. I'm one with you. I'm not here to fight you. I'm not here to do anything. I am here to just be your neighbor. And we're going to march, and we're going to march without weapons, without anything. You're going to beat us, and we're just going to keep showing up and just keep showing, and we're just going to wear you down with our love. And after a while, something's going to happen in your sick soul where you can't even do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that something will happen in your own humanity
Mm-hmm.
where you can't beat one more person. You're gonna drop the baton. You will just get worn out by the sheer mass display of such dignity and determination. Like God will turn your heart. And this is the way that it's done. If you have, it's just like a dog. The dog will bite you first. If the dog feels fear in you. So it's something to walk and march, not just in anger, but just sheer pride. Just sheer power. When we do our baby blessings here, we have these pledges that we have the family make, the extended family, and things that the community says. It's like this big village marriage between all of us, building the village for the child. And there's a chant that we all say, the entire congregation. You know, and our sanctuary seats almost 600. And people put their hands out, and we bring all the kids from Sunday school and whatnot, teenagers, everybody all in the pulpit. And we say this chant 3 times. Yes, you can. We believe in you. And we are never, ever giving up on you. Yes, you can. We believe in you, and we are never, ever giving up on you. And we just keep saying that and saying that. And we're all children of God. And this is where I stand. We are never, ever giving up on you. I've seen too much healing. I've seen too much transformation. You know, I work with people who have been convicted of murder, who are guilty. And 20 years later, 25 years later, are just phenomenal human beings. How many people have murdered people? Moses murdered somebody.
Right.
King David was straight up called.
Mm-hmm.
And the way he was killing folk. I mean, you know, it's like the Bible's full of people who murdered folk. It's not my job to kill anybody. It's not my job to determine who gets to live or not. I liked Holly Near's song. When will we stop killing people who are killing people to prove that killing people is wrong?
Right.
Anybody and everybody is redeemable. And if they can't be rehabilitated enough to come back into society, we don't have a right to kill them. We don't. The question really starts to become to us is not how bad is somebody and do they deserve my forgiveness? That's not the question. Question is, how many people can we put under the pale? How many people can we fit into the umbrella of the inclusion? Because I'm going to tell you something. Every time you put a wall up to keep somebody out, it's impacting you. When you separate from them, you're dimming your light. Yeah. It says in scripture, God makes his sun makes the sun to shine upon the just and the unjust. The sun's not going around and going, well, you know, I think I'm going to draw my rays over here and I'm going to pull them out over here. Ain't nobody got time for that. The sun, the sun just shines, and that's how we have to be. And when you just shine, you know what? You heal people. People heal in your presence when you shine.
Okay, I know we should be releasing the show, but I want to ask you this question because it's present for me, so I'm guessing somebody else is feeling the vibe. Do we live in a world where everybody's shining? Or is it another earth, a new earth, so to speak? That is this, because when I listen to you, there's a part of me that's like, yes, another part is like, do we live in a world, do we live on an earth where we can say to one another, we're not going to give up on one another? Because it just seems like, because we have free will, people are going to do what they want to do. And sometimes it's not going to be what I want them to do, what I expect them to do, what I'm holding the vision for them to do. It just seems like this earth is not designed for us saying, I'm never, all of us. Thoughts? I love it when you smile before you answer a question.
We're in the world, but we're not of it. The world is all the man-made stuff. So a lot of the man-made stuff, no. But can it change? Let me put it to you this way. A week from today, I'm going to be 65. Now, when I was growing up, just being gay was illegal, like 20 years. The American Psychiatric Association had us as sick and depraved. So you couldn't even get like a security clearance. You couldn't even have custody of your own children because you were considered to be an unfit parent. The church says we're demon, all of that. And that's just one issue. That's not even Black or female or like anything else. And I am broadcasting from my church on 3.5 acres, less than a mile from the Monterey Bay, in the Santa Cruz area, in a church community. I found it. It'll be right at my birthday time. It'll be 25 years since the Vision Corps started with that. You compare that to what it was like when I was born. You can't tell me things don't change. Now, in my denomination that I grew up in, the Church of God in Christ, they still don't ordain women. They still don't. Okay.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, I ain't mad at them. They, you know, Church of God in Christ, they can do whatever they want to do. Wonderful people. Some healing folks. And music, oh my God. You know, it's like those are my people. And that's not a yoke I could live under. Because God had a different plan for my life. Was there anything out there to say that the life that I'm living now is possible? Were there any examples? Was there anything like out there? No. Except I believed in me. And God believed in me. And if you spend all your time worried about what everybody else in the world is doing or what they think about you, you got to believe you first. And I'm not just like picking on you, but I find that every person that asks me these questions about what's possible, like out in the world and what people, they don't believe deeply enough in themselves. They're questioning something within themselves. But when you know you're a child of God, when you know that your life has meaning and purpose, you stop asking the question about what everybody else is going to let me do. You start rolling up the sleeves and say, come on, everybody. There's some walls that got to come down. Come on, everybody. We got to raise each other up. Come on, everybody. It's time for this slavery to end. It's time for this thing to end. Let's do this thing. Let's do this thing. The system is designed to make you hopeless. The system is designed to make you think that you can't. It is designed for you to stop believing. And when you do that, it's already won.
Yes.
You got to believe in you. Is it going to happen overnight? No. It ain't going to happen overnight. I don't know. But that's not my problem. Each of us we're like another car on the train, on the track of life. It's just moving along. Okay. We're all in the garden. You may not eat the fruit from your tree. The trees you plant, you may not ever see the fruit of the justice or the equality. But I'm here eating somebody else's fruit. I'm here eating somebody else. You know, I'm looking at this crown over in the side here. And there was something I just heard that James Baldwin said. Very out African-American author, poet. I love the movie that's out now, I'm Not Your Negro, which is like his life story. And he said, your crown has been bought and paid for. All you have to do is put it on your head and wear it. And that's what I feel like. That I could have sat around and wondered about what life was going to be and all of the rest of that. But there are people who suffered and died so that I could be as free as I am now. And it would be spitting in their face, dishonoring them, if I did not live up to the freedoms that already exist now. Then what was it all worth? What was the whole civil rights movement worth? You know what I mean? It's like, what was here? Like, what was it worth if we aren't bold enough to be the first? Bold enough to pioneer, bold enough to break those doors down, bold enough to say, it's possible. Like Barack Obama says, is it going to be perfect? No. But better is worth the effort towards a more perfect union. always in progress. Are we going to reach the promised land? I don't know. Maybe Earth is just about learning. I don't know if it's ever going to happen on Earth. Maybe Earth is just the school of hard knocks to learn forgiveness and how to, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I know I'm free.
Yeah.
And we can be freer in spite of the circumstances. Just believe in yourself. Hurt people. And the first people we hurt is ourselves.
Yes. Yes.
Believe in you.
And when we're healed, we heal people.
That's right. When you know better, you do better.
You do better.
That's why it says.
So you being part of the freedom train of transformation, you had to listen to that something that said, so what? You're black, you're lesbian, you're a woman who's run the church, founded a church, and out here speaking. And then even saying, I hear the voice of God. And not just that, I'm going to tell the world about it. I'm going to write a book about it. Because the believing in you is you listening to the so what. So it's like when listen to that something saying, so what? There's more.
No, it's beyond so what. It's purposeful. Like when James Baldwin, I forgot who it was, one of the late night hosts, says, well, you're black, you're gay, you're poor. And James Baldwin just said, I won the Triple Crown.
He flipped it. Yeah.
No, but I'm really serious. It's not just God is using you in spite of who you are. God is using you because of who you are. That all of those things that are being demonized, it's part of what makes your spice. It's part of what makes your flavor. It's part of your unique capital. No matter what's happened to you, if you've been abused, if you've been raped, if you've been battered, if you've been incarcerated, if you've been divorced, if you've had cancer, like whatever that is, God will use that, transform it into something that is a blessing. Don't hide it. Don't be ashamed of it. Don't try to push it out. It's a come as you are party. Just bring all of you. And God will use every single thing about you, not in spite of who you are, but because that's who you are.
And so it is. I ain't got nothing to add. I don't even have a closing. We're ending on that. It's been said. Thank
there
you.
It is.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
You take care.
Peace and blessings.
Love you, my brother.
Love you too. Thank you for being you.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye-bye.
The darkness and the light is the same thing to God. Take this consciousness, multiply it. I love you. I bless you. I appreciate you. And I thank God for you. Check out Rev D, DeborahLJohnson.org. She works with people individually as well. And you can find out more about the sessions that she teaches, which will just blow all the BS out of your consciousness. And then whatever sprinkled all over the place, you can gather it to transform yourself. Because even the BS is being used for your transformation. LifeCoachAde.com. I'm out of here. Nothing else to add. We're good. I'm good. Peace and blessings.
Yeah, yeah. We